I'm going to ask each of the panelists in order just to give a brief introduction of themselves and a bit about what they do with their organization, and then to just briefly talk about the first question, which is, what's the biggest challenge that your organization is facing as you approach getting back into the office? And if we can start off with Jim Green with Mercer, please.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Jim Green. I'm a principal and client lead at Mercer's Health and Benefits practice, located in the Urbandale office. With respect to the question, I think it depends on where the organization finds themselves in kind of one of three phases, whether it's still developing the response, figuring out the return to work, or coming up with a way to reinvent how they're going to do work and utilize the people. But more specifically, I think the biggest issue within all of those three phases is balancing economics with empathy for your employees, because not all employees are going to be able to handle return to work in the same way. So it's going to be a challenge.
Thank you, Jim. Let's go to Kelsey Knowles now. Kelsey.
Hi, Kelsey Knowles from Belin, McCormick. I think there are obviously a lot of interesting legal issues that are facing us right now. One of the biggest challenges, I think, as we go into this reopening phase for office environments is having to navigate legal issues that offices aren't used to dealing with. One of the big challenges is having to start dealing with things like OSHA and what those sorts of rules mean in an office environment where, generally speaking, we consider ourselves to be in safe environments, and how those rules interact and how we deal with employees who don't feel like it's safe to come to work. And so those sorts of challenges are just a lot different than what, say, a manufacturer might be used to dealing with on a regular basis.
Thanks, Kelsey. And Beth, tell us a little bit about yourself and your perspective.
Thank you, Joe, and thanks to the Business Record for sponsoring these COVID-19 forums. Great information, and frankly, I'm thankful that we are in a community such as Des Moines, where there is so much information sharing, and I think where everybody really is learning from everyone else in regards to this kind of fluid situation. And I know that there are folks on this virtual presentation today who are a part of the team at EMC that have been doing an incredible job and who have given me a lot of information that I can share and hopefully provide some insights to everybody. And I know we're all learning together as we go on this. But what I will say is, from the vantage point, Chief People Officer, one of the areas that I oversee is human resources. And our guiding factor is really the health and safety of our team members at all times. And what we're looking at is just the myriad of kind of moving targets, but we're keeping up to date and being mindful of what are the local and state regulations that are at play. We have offices in many different states, in communities, and so really wanting to make sure that we're keeping up to date with those, with the information that's coming out from the different departments of public health within those states, what the CDC is saying in terms of that information that's coming out. So really balancing the state and regulatory information, digesting what fits best for our environment and our workforce. What are the practical impacts in terms of whether or not we can engage in social distancing with a return to the office, what that looks like, again, in practicality, from a facility standpoint, from a workspace standpoint. Right now, we've got about 97% of our workforce that is able to work from home. So when we take a look at being able to do our business and engage, are we able to have more of a slower, deliberate pace with respect to what a return to office might actually look like? And then even in the midst of a mindset of returning to the office initially, trying to be proactive in terms of thinking, several steps ahead of what a second wave or a second peak might look like in any of our given geographic locations. So a lot of those varying different factors that are at play And I know that's the case with all of our environments. So those are just kind of some of the high level of factors that we're taking a look at. And also, I think Jim mentioned making sure that there is a level of equity. I've said this before, and I know it's on top of mind for most people, that while we are all in the same storm with respect to this pandemic, we're not all in the same boat, and our team members are not all in the same boat. So how does this land on each of our team members and their ability to either work from home, not work from home? What are the different obstacles that they might have in their way? And then whatever policies or practices we put into play, how does this land on them? And then really wanting to make sure that there is a level of equity with respect to the impact of our team members, so we can still be as inclusive and productive as possible.
Yeah, it really seems to go across the entire organization in terms of all the factors that have to be considered. Drew, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your perspective from the marketing side.
Hey everybody, Drew McLellan here. Own and run the McLellan Marketing Group. We've been around for 25 years and happy to have been a PR columnist for about the last 17 or 18 years, just dispensing marketing counsel on a weekly basis. You know, I think one of the challenges that makes this a very unique situation is that there is no right way to do this, and the right way for a 12-person office is very different than a 1,200-person office, and that we are dealing with both fact, and even those are not universally shared, and we're dealing with everybody's emotions. And so from a communication standpoint, we're all going to be going back to work at different times and in different ways, and we have to be able to communicate all of that. And in terms of communicating with our employees and our clients or our customers, we also have to be able to communicate the factual how we're going to do this, and we have to also deal with the emotional impact of how the employees feel about coming back. Some are super excited to come back, some are afraid to come back. How do you deal with all of those entities and communicate through all of that? So while there are a lot of things that are not absolute, the one thing I will tell you that I believe is absolute is we cannot over communicate to our own team or our customers or our community in this situation. We just can't share and communicate enough, because it's going to take multiple reiterations of anything we say for it to get through.